Black American. Guys, you know what to do. Someone's looking for you. Where are you, Black Americans? Where are you?
And just because it triggers y'all so much to hear this, the original natives were black. The original natives were black. Stay mad. If you're gonna comment blatant lies about me, I'm deleting your comment. I don't give a f. Love and hate are forms of worship. Y'all keep me powerful. If y'all hate me so much, leave me the f alone. That'll be the most effective way to get me to shut up. Meanwhile, while I'm still here, I'll still be saying that black people came first, and you need to learn how to cope.
To the Asians that are still bending over backwards for white acceptance, what has it gotten you? You guys got rid of affirmative action, and now we are not getting into top universities at the same rate that we used to, but when affirmative action was still a thing. Our elders were getting beat up in the streets during COVID. Did you having a white husband stop that from happening to your mom? Some of y'all made that shitty fusion cuisine and put strawberry in matcha, and now the white people really like it. And our food costs way too much. There's a matcha shortage. The colonizers are looking at ube now. They're trying to bulldoze Chinatowns across the nation. And your white husband is still gonna cheat on you when you have a baby and he finds a younger Asian woman. Your kid still doesn't have blue eyes. Your kid still has brown hair. What has it gotten you? What has this house servant mentality gotten you, gotten your family, gotten your community? I get that you feel better than other Asian women. I get that you feel like you're prettier, smarter, more accepted than Asian women like me who don't choose to do those things. But you're not even getting paid for waiting around in H Mart waiting to help a white person find Asian groceries. Please move out of the way. I'm trying to get my chicken feet here. Oh yeah. And what has voting for Trump personally done for you? To the Asians that are
This is part 2 of me addressing anti-blackness within the Asian community. When we allow anti-black sentiments from the Asian community, then we're also allowing others to put down our community as well. We're in a really unique position because we can be seen as both the victims and the oppressors. Think of the Asian American cop that turned his back on George Floyd or the 1992 LA riots. Our struggles are very, very different, but they're all connected. Black activists have fought for Asian Americans, and we're able to vote, we're able to become citizens because of this work. Now, all of us, no matter what minority group we belong to, we all have some sort of bias. This is just part of the human experience. There's nothing wrong with you for having some sort of bias, but we also need to address how those biases affect our view of the world around us. Some self-reflective questions can include, what are some things that I learned about other minority groups growing up, and how has that affected my view of the world around me today? How do we view ourselves versus other minority groups? What are some beliefs that we've held that may be rooted in anti-blackness?
So why does black culture lead global culture? Black people say they want our rhythm, but not our blues. But a mentor once told me that your pain becomes your power. So maybe y'all got rhythm because you've had your blues. Born from chains and pain, rhythm came from struggle. It's not just style, it's survival. The world moves with it because it feels true. And in Korea, we know that kind of pain too. We were colonized, invaded, divided. The Japanese, for example, took our land, our names, our voices, even our daughters. They turned them into sex slaves for their soldiers. Generations carried that shame in silence until that silence learned to sing. It became K-pop. Trauma turned into triumph. A nation healing through harmony. Hip-hop, K-pop, different stories, same truth. Pain gives birth to power. Suffering to sound. Without the blues, there is no rhythm.
You see what is happening here, right? In the first couple of minutes, you've got 3 Asian voices doing 3 big things at the same time. First, you've got someone boldly saying that the original natives were blacks, that black people came first. That is not a small statement. That is an Asian person telling the truth about black presence and black origin in the world that spent centuries trying to erase that. Second, you've got an Asian sister calling out her own people. The Asians chasing white acceptance, voting for Trump, breaking down their culture for white approval. And she is literally asking, what has that done for us? She is saying, we did all of that, and still our elders were attacked. Our communities are being bulldozed. Our food is being colonized. And third, you've got a calm, reflective voice saying, look, anti-blackness lives in our community. We have to be honest about our biases. We have to check what we were taught about black people. So this video is not just about Asians begging for unity with black Americans. It's Asian Americans putting their own community on table and saying, we messed up. We benefited from your struggle and we need to fix this. I am not a black American, but I care deeply about black people and about this conversation. So In the rest of the video, we're gonna be listening to these clips together, break them down, and really ask, what does the genuine unity between the Black and Asian communities in the USA really look like? Beyond hashtags, beyond performative allyship. As you're watching the video, the full credits belong to original creators of the clips featured in the video. And remember that this video is for educational purposes. So stay tuned.
People of all different races and ages laced up their sneakers and gathered at Union Square for the Black and Asian Solidarity 5K run and walk.
The point is not one community versus another. The point is that everybody versus racism.
Every month, the group running to protest leads a 5K run. This month's focus was on the shared experience between the Black and Asian community. The crowd so big, most people forced to walk. Organizers and runners say the two communities have a history of clashing in the past, but are brought together by their common struggle of being profiled because of their race.
When people attack each other or they speak negatively of each other, it's all based off of stereotypes that they've heard. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring an understanding to us as a people, right? Looking into our inner mirrors and finding out who we truly are.
Black and Chinese, come on. Black and yellow, you ever heard the song? Black and yellow, black and yellow, black. Come on. I ain't crazy. Please. What is he on?
I would never co-sign a black man being with anything other than a black woman.
Well, first of all, I think both sides, very similar situations.
Okay.
You may think it's very different, but it's very similar.
You think it's similar?
I think it's similar.
So you think the Chinese American man has a similar struggle to the black American man?
I say similar.
I know you're not going to tell me your Asian family is not racist. I'm sure you know that they hold.
Oh, no, I know.
Okay,
They
so
definitely
how
got
will
some
you deal with that if
stereotypes.
you have mixed race children?
The tension didn't just magically appear. It was shaped by decades of laws, segregation, stereotypes, and political narratives that pushed our communities apart. When Asian immigrants first came to the US, they weren't allowed to live just anywhere. Segregation forced them into Black and brown neighborhoods because those were the only areas open to anyone who wasn't white. So Asians and Black Americans were physically close, but not always connected. Different languages, different histories, limited communication, misunderstandings grew out of that. Then in the 1960s, during the Civil Rights Movement, the US created the model minority myth. The idea that Asian Americans were successful, quiet, and proof that racism doesn't exist. That stereotype was never meant to lift Asians up. It was meant to contrast Asians against Black Americans and basically say, see, like they're doing fine, why can't you? It was a political tool that built resentment and pressure on both sides, even though neither community created that narrative. At the same time, anti-Blackness already existed in some Asian cultures because of colonialism, colorism, and Western media influence. And for some Black Americans, their only interactions with Asians were through local businesses, corner stores, nail salons, restaurants, situations that were transactional, not relational. That created frustration and stereotypes on both sides. But here's the thing, in both communities, it's only a small handful of people who are actually hateful or racist. A few loud, ignorant individuals do not represent millions of us. We can't let the worst examples define entire communities. Then COVID hit and all of this got amplified again. Anti-Asian hate skyrocketed. Elderly Asians were attacked, harassed, and blamed for the virus, all because of fear and political scapegoating. Some of the viral videos showed attackers who were Black, and suddenly that tiny number of incidents turned into a whole narrative online like Black people hate Asians, which was inaccurate and unfair. What people forget is that Black activists and Black organizations publicly stood with Asian communities during that time. People protested for us. They protected Asian elders. They spoke out against the hate. But the media rarely highlighted the solidarity, only the violence. And yes, some Asians responded by generalizing those incidents and blaming the entire Black community, which made things even worse, even though the majority of Black people had nothing to do with those attacks. COVID didn't create new racism. It exposed what was already unaddressed and made stereotypes louder because everyone was scared and hurting. But amid all of that, we forget that historically there has also been real solidarity. Asian American activists learned organizing strategies from Black civil rights leaders. Filipino and Black farm workers united under Larry Itliong and Cesar Chavez. Japanese American activists stood with the Black Panthers. Yuri Kochiyama worked alongside Malcolm X. In Oakland, Black and Asian communities built programs together to fight poverty and injustice. These are real alliances, they just don't get talked about as much as the conflicts. That's why we need to zoom out. Like, a handful of ignorant people shouldn't define entire communities. A bad experience shouldn't turn into a stereotype. We shouldn't let old narratives and old wounds be recycled and divide us again. Asians and Black people have both faced discrimination, exclusion, violence, and being treated like outsiders. We have more in common than we think, and when we work together, there's real power, real healing, and real progress. We just have to stop letting fear, stereotypes, and misinformation talk louder than the history and solidarity we actually come from.
Other minorities asking Black people to show up and protest against ICE. Ask the Asians instead. Our shit's already being rocked. The working class ones are going to be targeted by ICE just like the Latino community. Hell, a bunch of us are already being deported and often to the wrong country. And then as for the richer ones, Trump has already banned all Chinese students from coming to the US to study and has banned all international students from coming to Harvard, which affects a whole lot of Asian international students. So anybody who looks Chinese, even if they're a US citizen, is going to be affected by this. He's put several South Asian countries on the travel ban list. So yeah, brown Asians are going to be affected too. Anyway, our voting numbers look very similar to Latinos. Just over half of us voted for Kamala and the rest went for Trump. We couldn't just fucking listen to Black people when they told us to vote for the Black lady who wasn't going to take all our civil rights away. And now we want them to come save our asses when they're getting whooped? Also, have you maybe considered that the feds want Black people to show up to the protests? Because then they have an excuse to escalate the violence. Then they have an excuse to call them riots. We saw what happened with the peaceful protests in 2020 after George Floyd was killed by a policeman. Also, if you've been paying any attention at all, Black people have been showing up to support Latinos who are potentially being deported. Look at all the videos from Compton. Just type Compton in your search bar. So why don't we do this? Why don't we let Black people make their own decisions? Stop expecting them to be your personal avengers. Mobilize the Asians. I know that if I'm in front of a cop at a protest, he's going to think twice about doing anything to me. He's not going to give me the same grace as a white person, but he's definitely going to give me more than he gives a Black person. And if you can't go to a protest, just fucking say something, especially if you live in California. Asians, I know there's a lot of you over there. I was born in the Bay Area, so I feel like I should say something. Anyway, yeah, mobilize the Asians. Stay safe out there.
Let's talk about intersectional history, something we don't talk nearly enough about, particularly at a moment in time when African Americans and Asian folks both found themselves on plantations in the Deep South during the 19th century. My name's EJ, and as I mentioned, I'm talking about history we don't talk nearly enough about, so let's get into it. Particularly in Louisiana, many folks that owned plantations and that were enslavers made large amounts of wealth, particularly owning sugarcane and cotton plantations. And so with the end of the Civil War and the emancipation of those that were being enslaved, they continued to look for ways in which they could exploit labor to continue making wealth off of these particular crops such as sugarcane and cotton. Now, you may remember learning this in school, where in the Caribbean, very similarly after the emancipation of those that were being enslaved, particularly Africans and their descendants, well, oftentimes those plantation owners look to find cheap sources of labor to continue to exploit this labor so they can continue to amass large amounts of wealth, particularly looking in places like Asia, places like China and India. And well, there was a few cases that this actually happened in the United States, and Louisiana is one of those places. I remember hearing years ago that there were Chinese immigrants living in the parish that my family was enslaved in Louisiana. I didn't really look into it at the time, but many years later, as I was doing my own family research, looking at the 1870 census, I found some very interesting information. As I was going through the census records, listed amongst many other Black folks who were still living and working on these plantations post-emancipation, I found a number of individuals whose birthplaces were listed as China and who also were listed as laborers on these plantations near many African Americans. This is important to know that some plantation owners in Louisiana and parishes like Natchitoches, as well as some parishes in South Louisiana on the sugarcane plantations, look to exploit Asian labor, expecting it to be an easier form of labor to make them more money and wealth in lieu of the newly freed African Americans that were often still working on these many plantations. However, what they were not expecting is, just like African Americans, a lot of the Asian immigrants were also looking for better working conditions, and they were willing to leave plantations where they were able to find better working conditions or higher pay. It's important to remember this history in which Asian immigrants as well as African Americans continued to labor on the plantations throughout Louisiana post-emancipation of the enslaved African Americans. My name is EJ. Follow me for more Black history, culture, and content.
Why do Asian Americans do a very good job in school?
They constantly study as well.
Okay, so they study more. To reinforce your point, Kevin, on the SAT, the average Asian on the SAT is scoring 920. And the average white European student is scoring 908. And the average black African American student is only scoring 700. Now, you gave one reason for this gap, and that is the average Asian studies 12 hours a week. The average white student studies 8 hours a week. And we only study 5 hours a week and watch more TV than anybody else in America. Any other reasons why Asians do a very good job in school?
Their parents kind of emphasize schoolwork a lot.
Okay, so their parents reinforce academic achievement, and you think that sometimes their parents may reinforce achievement more than African American parents? Okay, don't worry. I know that's not the case with your parents. But let's go on to the second part of the question. Why do African Americans do such a good job in sports? In the NBA, 86% of the NBA basketball starters are black, except in Boston. But only 1% of the engineers and doctors in this country are black. Why is it that black students, black people, do a better job in sports and music than they do in other areas? Is it ability? What is it?
They concentrate more on sports and, like, just saying, like, in school, since they were young, their peer pressure influenced them to, you know, go with the in crowd in sports and dance, so therefore they emphasize that more. So now when they get older, they still emphasize that.
Okay, so you're saying the black in crowd is reinforcing the sports and music, and the Asian in crowd is reinforcing study? Okay. Yes, Charlotte?
You spoke of expectations. If someone expects that you are naturally inclined in this area, that's sort of where you get groomed.
Okay.
And if someone naturally expects that you are not academically sound, then you will be groomed away from that.
So you're saying when adults see our students in the school, and they see an Asian student, they automatically assume this person may be well-versed academically, and when they see a black student, this person may be well-versed in sports and music? Okay. So we have to work on the issue of expectations.
So I just want to shed light on this race war between the Asian American community and the Black American community. Yes, there is racism on both sides. But what do we have in common, other than being both discriminated minorities? We are both American, and America was founded on multiculturalism and diversity. That's why multiculturalism works so well in America, and really only in America, whereas in other countries like Europe and Asia, multiculturalism doesn't work so well, because those places weren't founded on the value of multiculturalism. They were ethnostates. America is not an ethnostate. And a lot of white leftists think it's the white majority oppressors versus the minority oppressed. But clearly there's a race war within the minority oppressed. And it's tearing apart the very foundation of what America was built on. We are one human race after all.
A lot of boomer Asians, a lot of Asians abroad, some Asians my age or younger, or just generally around my age, are racist. Subconsciously racist. They're racist, but they don't want to admit they're racist. These racists have this idea that Black, Hispanic, Latino, Indigenous people are lazy because after experiencing generational trauma, generational disadvantage, generational struggles, they're asking for the bare minimum to get a little better chance into getting into colleges, that they're lazy. People keep saying that there's free resources, free SAT prep, there's Khan Academy, there's YouTube, there's Google, but people don't understand what real poverty is. People just say, oh, there's poor Asians as well, but do you understand what poverty really is? Poverty is to the point where time really is money, and it's better spent working to get money to help your family and help yourself rather than your education, okay? That's how poor you are. They don't even have time to study the books. And it's really funny saying that Black, Hispanic, Latino, Indigenous people are lazy when most of Asia is poor and poorer than these people in America. Now, this is the most crazy thing about me whenever I encounter like these crazy racist Asians is that don't you think they also want handouts as well? Huh? And how come they're not lazy, right? The truth of the matter is that humans in general will want to improve the situation if they can or if they can imagine it. Everyone is trying to make the best decision in their life to be happy. okay? Keyword, to be happy. And sometimes when you choose a life where you're trying to break the poverty cycle, the sacrifices and the pain is just not worth it to get like a 10% increase chance to getting into a college, right? And after that, you still have to get a job. And even then, that's not even guaranteeing that you'll break the poverty cycle, okay? So a lot of poor people, what end up happens is they just forego the college route, okay? They just give up on it. It's simply not worth it for them. This pain, this struggle, this sacrifice is exhibited in Asians as well, okay? Don't say that only Black and Hispanic and Latino indigenous people are the ones that are doing this. Asian people do it ourselves, okay? And also it pains me because if you know real Asian struggles, then you would know that Asian people and Black people work together. Asian people and Hispanic people work together a lot too. We got the Black hair stores and we also got the Asian kitchens, man. You know who's working those kitchens, right? My whole point is that we need to work together rather than being racist towards each other, okay? Stop.
When an Asian person says they can't date another Asian person because it reminds them of their brother or sister, that makes no fucking sense. That's like the same shit for every race, okay? Every race that dates within their own race. What the fuck? Like, you can't tell me an Asian person from a totally different culture is gonna remind you of your fucking brother. What the fuck does that even mean?
You know, Black Americans are the only group that fights back against white supremacy. No other group fights back against white supremacy. Every other group tries to like thread the line and like not say too much. You go through Vivek Ramaswamy's comic section and it's just white people telling him to go back to India, that they don't want him here, calling him a G. You go through FBI Director Kash Patel's comic section on Twitter and it's them doing the same thing, telling him to go back to India. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't have the job. He's DEI. You know, we're the only, even like the Indians don't fight back, the Hispanics don't fight back, the Asians don't fight back. Black Americans are the only group that fights back against white supremacy. Like, it's always been like that. I think it will always be like that. And that's just what it is. Like, no one else does, like, everyone else just like puts their hands up and says, okay, cool, you're white, so this is just how it has to be. It's awful to see. Because I was just looking at Kash Patel's comment section this morning, and I'm just like, why is he just letting white people talk to him like this? But then again, on that side, you know, that's what you have to do. You have to just let white people just berate you and destroy you and tell you ain't shit, and you don't say nothing back.
What about Asian Americans who often seem to, as a group, perform better in school than other groups? Why is that?
I think the one four-letter word we can't use is work. And they just work. I mean, I remember when I was teaching at UCLA and I had to go on a Saturday night to the research library. And as I looked around, almost everybody I saw was Asian American. I looked in vain for any Black students there. Not many white students there. So the following week, when I go to class and I find the Asian Americans better prepared, there's no real mystery to it to me. They work.
I realized a lot of Black people do not know who are the true Asian allies of the Black community are, because there's a lot of liberal Asians in America, right? But there's only a few who has actually frequently defended Black people on a common occurrence. It's not just once or twice, maybe 3 times. No, it's multiple times on multiple occasions they have defended us. There are a lot of people who are liberals, especially people of color, who swears to God they're allies of the Black community, and they'll go tooth and nail for us, and they'll fight us on every given occasion, only for them to talk out of their ass and not do anything about it. So I'm going to give you the list of the Asian allies I follow because they deserve it. By the way, none of this is scaled, just the list. Number 1 is Umi. She has defended Black people on multiple occasions. She has defended our honor, our dignity, and our representation. She's even backed it up with statistics. Number 2 is Dr. Gia. She is the fucking GOAT when it comes to not just defending Black people, but she's also bringing in that Black and Asian solidarity. She is constantly calling out the anti-Blackness within the Asian community, and honestly, my respects for her is high as shit. Number 3 is Amy Chen, an absolute veteran of defending Black people for Black and Asian solidarity, and she's just godly at statistics. Her research is incredibly immaculate, and she'll also compare those statistics with history. Number 4 is Eric O. Even though he doesn't really make political content all that much, whenever he sees Asian people stepping out of line, he will go out of his way to make a video about it, and I'm like, okay, you cool. Number 5, my all-time favorite, Unity. She is superb. She's not only a massive representation of Black and Asian solidarity, she defends Black people, she has many Black friends, she is insanely multicultural, she's a part of the Black culture, and she talks about a book of how to decenter whiteness with Asian people. Number 6 is Ed, also a veteran. Very transparent when it comes to the anti-Blackness within the Asian community. He pulls no punches. He also talks about the prejudiceness within the Black community towards the Asian community, which is true. Massive supporter of Black and Asian solidarity, incredibly transparent, and education. Number 7 is 6 May 6. Tremendous support supporter of the Black Nation Solidarity, calls out the anti-blackness, calls out the stereotype. She has a black partner too, if I'm not mistaken. She also discussed ways for Black and Asian people to unite as one. Number 8, who is the state representative, is Jinwoo. Again, massive supporter of Black and Asian Solidarity, and he talks about the history with civil rights and Asian people. Number 9 is Melissa. Need I say more? Honestly, her reputation is so fucking incredible when it comes to black people. I don't think I need to say anything about this one. Anyways, that's my list. If I'm forgetting anyone, let me know in the comments because I would like to find more. But that's all I gotta say in the matter. It's Onyx, and I'm gone.
After watching the whole video from the beginning to the end, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just Asians asking Black Americans for unity. This is Asians admitting on camera that a lot of harm, silence, and confusion has come out of their communities, and that they cannot move forward without dealing with that honestly. I want to speak very carefully here because I am not a Black American. I am not the one who grew up in the US schools, US police systems, US neighborhoods, but I am someone who loves Black people, especially my Black American brothers and sisters, and I care about how these messages land on you. At the start of the video, you heard a bold statement. The original natives were black. Black people came first. Now, whether people agree with every historical detail or not, the bigger point she's trying to make is this. The world has been taught to treat blackness like it is at the bottom, when in reality, blackness is foundational. She's not saying that other groups don't exist or don't matter. She is saying, stop acting like black people are an afterthought. You exist because they were here. That is a very big shift because most of the time, non-black people try to distance themselves from black people. She's doing the opposite. She is tying herself to blackness and telling her own people to deal with that truth. Then you've got the second clip where she goes to those Asians chasing white approval, marrying into whiteness, voting for Trump, killing affirmative action, remixing Asian food for white trends. And she just keeps asking, for real, what did that actually do for us? And she's not saying that to be messy. She is saying, you helped get rid of affirmative action. You married into whiteness. But it didn't protect your elders from being attacked during COVID. You tried to whiten your image, but your kids still looks Asian. Your communities are still vulnerable. Your neighborhoods are still being bulldozed. In other words, proximity to whiteness did not equal to safety. And that is a huge admission because for a lot of Asian families for a long time, the unspoken strategy was succeed, be quiet, get close to whiteness, and things will be fine. And now they are waking up and saying, we did all of that and it still didn't save us. For Black Americans listening to this, I think the most important thing is to look at these clips as not begging, but as a sign of awareness. These people are realizing we believed the model minority myth, we believed anti-black stories, we believed that if we align ourselves with whiteness we'll be safe, and now we're seeing that the price was too high and the protection was fake. And then we have that Asian sister calmly breaking down anti-blackness in her own community. She talked about how Asians are in this strange position of being used as oppressors and also being oppressed at the same time. She mentions Asian cop who turned his back during the George Floyd incident, the way tensions were manipulated. But she also does something that is very important. She doesn't pretend that Asians are innocent. She says clearly, we all have bias. We have to ask ourselves about what we were taught about other minorities. We have to admit that some of our beliefs about black people is rooted in anti-blackness. That is accountability. She's not saying we are victims, forgive us. She is saying we need to do internal work. We need to clean our own house. Then the video goes wider. It talks about why black culture leads the global culture, how pain becomes rhythm, how trauma becomes music, how hip-hop and even K-pop grow out of suffering. That part connect black and Korean experience without pretending that they are exactly the same people. I like that approach. Different stories, same pattern: colonization, invasion, division, shame, then art, then power. We have talked in the previous video how black struggles opened doors for other minority groups in America. So I won't repeat all of that here. Then the video gets very honest about why there is tension between black and Asian communities. Segregation pushing Asians into black, the model minority myth being weaponized to turn communities against each other, anti-blackness imported into Asian cultures through colonialism, colorism, and Western media. Black people mainly meeting Asian through business, beauty supply stores, nail shops, corner stores in the black neighborhoods. Most of the time, they meet in situations about money, not about trust and friendship. When you put all of that together, tension is not a mystery. It was engineered. It was designed. COVID-19 just turned up the volume. Anti-Asian hate exploded. Some of the videos of our attackers were black, and suddenly the internet turned few incidents into a story. Black people hate Asians, which is not true. At the same time, a lot of Asians forgot or did not see that many black organizers were marching to protect Asian elders, speaking out publicly and standing in solidarity. The speakers made it clear the media highlighted the violence more than solidarity. That is not an accident either. Later in the video, there was a big shift into the history and economics. Asian and black labor into plantation owners bringing Asians to replace black labor during emancipation, both groups being exploited, both trying to escape bad conditions, both trying to survive. That's not just interesting history, it shows very clearly that the system has always been trying to look for the cheap labor and the new ways to keep exploited people from uniting. Then we move into education and stereotypes. The classroom conversation about test scores, hours studied, expectations. On the surface, it looks like Asians study more, black kids prefer sports. But the more important part is what the woman said about expectations. When people expect an Asian kid to be smart, when people expect a black kid to be good only in sport and music, they somehow push them from academics. That doesn't mean that black parents don't care about education or that Asian parents are perfect. It means that the society treats both kids differently from the beginning. And over time, the kids start to live up or down to what is expected of them. The guy at the end talking about racist Asians and poverty goes deeper. He calls out Asians who say that black and Latinos are lazy. His message is basically poverty is not laziness. People make choices based on happiness and survival, not just what looks good on paper. And Asians, Latinos, and black people have more in common. And then at the end, the blood listing the actual Asian allies by name is very important because online people loves to say Asian this, black that, but here you have a black man saying unity is not just an idea, it's built on real people doing the real work. So what do we do with all of this? If you are a black American watching this, I'm not here to tell you how to feel. Some of you are going to say this is beautiful, I love seeing this. Others will say it is too late, we have been hurt before, I don't trust it. Both of those reactions are valid. What I think is important though is to recognize the difference between performative guilt and real accountability. In the video, we saw Asians calling out anti-blackness. Asians clearly saying that we benefited from black activism. Asians admitting that chasing whiteness did not benefit them. Asians encouraging other Asians to show up for themselves and show up for black people. Instead of always expecting black people to do all of that. That doesn't erase the past harm. It doesn't automatically fix everything, but it is the step that many people never thought we would be seeing it publicly. I think the healthiest response is balanced. As someone watching this from the outside, appreciate the honesty and the courage of those Asians. Keep your boundaries and your standards. Unity cannot mean ignoring anti-blackness when it shows up. Remember that solidarity is not one-sided. Black people are not personal avengers for every community that is in trouble. At the same time, Asians who talk like this also need the support from their own communities, because calling out your own community is not easy. Some of them will be attacked, misunderstood, called traitors, told that they are pandering. They need other Asians to say, no, we agree with you. This is the direction we should go. For me, the main takeaway from the video is simple. The system wins when the Black and Asian communities stay suspicious of each other. The system loses when both groups see the pattern, tell the truth, and choose to stand together where it really matters. In the end, unity doesn't start with we all love each other. It starts with honesty, accountability, shared history, and choosing not to let the worst examples define millions of people. That's the kind of unity that cannot be easily broken. So that was it for today. Make sure you like the video and tell me in the comment section what you think.